Hi, welcome back. Just picking up where we left off in Luke's Gospel, we talked last time about the whole idea of the reality of heaven and how essential it is to Jesus' teaching in Luke chapter 12. In other words, it's something that you can't just remove and expect the rest of the teaching to hold together. If you want to deal with fear, worry, and anxiety, then you have to understand the role that heaven plays in that dealing with fear, worry, and anxiety. And so Jesus closes this section by saying, "Sell your possessions, give to the needy, provide yourselves with money bags that do not grow old, with a treasure in the heavens that does not fail." And so his emphasis here, in the context of fear, worry, and anxiety, is to set your heart on heaven. He says that at the very end of the passage, "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." And so if you live your life outwardly toward other people, if you live your life in a way that reflects the reality of heaven and the priority of heaven, then Jesus says that your heart won't be so set here in this world. It'll actually be set in the place where your treasure is. And so if you're thinking about your Father in heaven, if you're thinking about not just this world, but the world to come and what that's going to be like, then in a sense, your heart begins to go out to it and attach itself to it. And that's the way our hearts work. Our hearts attach themselves to things. And so if it's not attaching it to heaven, if it's not attaching it to something or someone in the life to come or someone outside of this world, it's going to attach itself to something in this world. And I want to do a section on the whole concept of idolatry just to help us understand that. But at this point, I want to give you an illustration that hopefully will help you see why this is so important when dealing with fear, worry, and anxiety, and why it's so critical in the world that we live in today in America in 2020. And so to do that, I want to tell you an illustration. So imagine that you find out about a place that is just absolutely beautiful. The climate is wonderful. It's a perfect temperature all year round. The people are wonderful. Zero crime rate. The food is wonderful. Everything is just better than it is here in this world that we live in. And so it's a place, let's say in the Caribbean or somewhere, and you got to take a boat to get there. And so at first you set off on your journey, and your thought is, well, look, it doesn't really make much difference what boat I take. That's not the point. The point is that I set my heart in this place, and however I get there, I get there. And so you start your journey, and you decide that, well, I'm going to take this boat here, and you choose a ship to take, and it's okay. It's not really the greatest. It's a fishing boat, so it stinks, and the crew's kind of rough and gruff, and they're a little bit crude, and the sleeping quarters aren't that great. And so you're traveling along, and your heart is set upon this place that you're going to be. And so as you move along, you stop in these different ports, and you change, they pick up supplies, and they, get off, and you get back on again. And what you find that is when you get off at these ports, you find all these advertisements, and these advertisements are promoting these better ships, these beautiful ships that can take you to this place. And so they start off saying, like, why would you want to be on a stinky old fishing boat? Why don't you get on this cruise boat, this cruise ship? And it's so much more wonderful. There's a swimming pool, there's a bar, there's food, there's everything you can imagine. It's very comfortable. And so you think, well, why not? So you trade in your old fishing boat, and you decide to pay the extra money and get onto this cruise ship. Well, the next thing you know, you pull into another port, and you realize that there are better cruise ships. There are bigger cruise ships that have more amenities, they have more luxuries, they have more entertainment, things to keep you busy. And so you decide to upgrade again to this other cruise ship. And over time, what happens is you begin to think less about your destination, and you begin to become more obsessive and set your heart on finding the best cruise ship that you can find, finding the best accommodations, finding the best room service, finding the best food. And what's happening there? Well, what's happening is your heart is no longer attached to the place you're going. It's now attached to the way that you're going to get there. And so suddenly you become discontent. Suddenly you become more anxious. Suddenly you wonder, you worry, have I got the right ship? What if I can get something better, a better deal for my money? What if I can get something that is more luxurious or more comfortable? And pretty soon you're coveting and you're unsettled and your heart is restless and churning because you're always worrying if you chose the right ship, or maybe there's something out there that's better. And if I'm connecting here with you, I want you to just think for a moment, is it possible that that's where we are today? We are so caught up in, and I'm talking about Christians, that our hearts are not really set on heaven. Our hearts are really not set on these things, but we've become so enamored with and so preoccupied with the way we're getting there, the houses we live in, the jobs we have. And I'm not saying these things are important. We're going to talk more in a bit here about how we don't have to choose between those as though this is all evil and this is good. There's a better way to do that, but I just want you to think about that for a moment. Think about that illustration. Does that help us to understand what's going on and what Jesus is teaching here? And we'll talk more about it next time. Thanks.